You're watching the World News on France 24. It's time now to get a look at today's business stories. And for that, I'm joined on set by Yuka Roya. Hello, Yuka.
Hi, Nadia.
First of all, you're going to be starting off with a major shake-up at Renault, the French car maker, sacking its chief executive.
Well, the company's board has voted to dismiss Thierry Bolloré as CEO with immediate effect. Chief Financial Officer Clotilde Delbos has taken over as interim leader. The shake-up comes just a few days after Renault's Japanese partner Nissan appointed a new CEO. The alliance was badly shaken by the arrest of former boss Carlos Ghosn almost a year ago, and Bolloré's ouster is seen as the latest effort by Renault to cut its links to the disgraced tycoon. Shirley Sitbon reports.
The move to replace Renault's chief executive was not completely unexpected. Although shocked, Thierry Bolloré knew that the likely reason for his removal were his once close relations with Carlos Ghosn, Renault's former CEO, now awaiting trial in Japan on charges of financial misconduct.
The only thing they might have against me is that I was chosen as Deputy Director General in 2018 by a unanimous vote of the board with Carlos Ghosn's support.
Bolloré joined the company in 2012 and climbed from one executive position to another until becoming Ghosn's potential successor. When Ghosn was arrested last year, Bolloré replaced him and Jean-Dominique Sénard was brought in as company chairman. His mission, protecting Renault's alliance with Nissan and Mitsubishi. To do that, he wanted to remove all those who had managed the company with Ghosn.
It is important that this alliance be extremely strong. We're going to do everything we can. We know that we have to move forward. We know that we have to invest tremendous amount of resources in new technologies.
For the French state, which holds 15% of Renault, preserving the alliance with Nissan is also key. The government says it supports Sénard's decision. The board has named Renault's chief financial officer and executive vice president, Clotilde Delbos, its new interim chief executive.
While investors seem to welcome the news, Renault shares have been rising since this morning when the board meeting took place, currently up more than 4%. In Tokyo, shares of its alliance partner Nissan also rose this Friday by almost 2%. Overall, the main stock markets in Europe have turned positive after opening on a mixed note on rising optimism over global trade. London's FTSE up half a percentage point, Paris's CAC 40 up almost 1%, and Frankfurt's DAX rallying 1.8%. Oil prices jumped on news of an explosion on an Iranian tanker in the Red Sea. The prices were already up after the head of OPEC said the group could take action to balance oil markets, including deeper supply cuts, and the latest event has sent prices rising further.
Now, a lot of investor attention is on the US-China trade talks as day two of those negotiations in Washington kick off today. Now, President Trump is due to meet the Chinese vice premier at the White House. Yuka, are we expecting any kind of deal on the horizon here?
Well, Donald Trump says that the talks are going very, very well, although expectations had been pretty low for the 13th round of negotiations to do much to resolve the 15-month trade battle. But Thursday's meeting was seen as better than expected, raising hopes that at least a mini deal may be agreed. Such a deal could include a promise from both sides not to devalue their currencies to gain a trade advantage. Let's take a closer look.
President Trump has made a series of upbeat comments about the latest round of trade talks with China.
I'm meeting with the vice premier over at the White House, and I think it's going really well.
That has brought hopes that trade tensions may be eased. For the past 15 months, President Trump has been trying to reshape U.S.-China trade relations through pressure. The U.S. has slapped tariffs on more than $360 billion worth of Chinese goods. China has replied by raising tariffs on $120 billion worth of U.S. goods. The 13th round of talks comes days before U.S. planned to extend tariffs to almost all Chinese imports. Now there's hope for a deal, although it could be partial. Such an agreement could involve currency, with a potential Chinese pledge not to manipulate its currency to boost trade. A partial agreement could also include copyright protections. The U.S. has accused China of stealing technology and pressuring foreign companies to hand over their secrets. Meanwhile, Chinese state media, quoting Vice Premier and Chief Negotiator Liu He, says Beijing could cooperate on rebalancing trade, giving the U.S. greater market access and on investor protection. Beijing has taken goodwill measures recently, buying large quantities of soybeans and pork, perhaps another sign it's ready to ease tensions.
Well, meanwhile, President Trump has also repeatedly attacked General Motors for having factories in China. But at home, the car maker's been paralysed now for a worker strike that's been going on for almost 4 weeks. You could tell us a bit about it.
Almost 4 weeks now. Frustrated by the prolonged walkout, which started on the 16th of September, General Motors has urged the United Auto Workers Union to do more to reach an agreement. About 48,000 GM workers have walked out on their jobs, demanding higher pay, better benefits and greater job security. The plant stoppage has so far cost the car maker more than $1 billion and has forced operations elsewhere to idle, affecting 10,000 employees in Canada and Mexico, for example.
Now, finally, for business, from news here in France, the fallout from a massive fire at a chemical plant in Normandy is continuing to affect farmers in the area. Yuka, tell us what's the situation.
Well, 3 top government officials, the Ministers for Health, Environment and Agriculture, visited the site this morning to try and restore public confidence over the state's handling of the disaster. They promised total transparency, while the plant's owner, Lubrizol, agreed to pay financial compensation to farmers who've been ordered to freeze on local agricultural production and sales as a precaution over potential chemical pollution. Even though the cause of the fire has not been established, Lubrizol has agreed to release 50 million euros from its environmental risk fund to cover the damage for around 450 farmers. The story is very much still ongoing.
Yeah, but certainly a big story here in France. Yuka, thank you very much. Yuka Roya there taking us through some of the top business stories on the programme on Live from Paris today. You're watching an hour of world news with me, Nadia Massi. It's time for a short break. All the headlines coming up just after this.